Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. Today, Saturday, preparation series review. Unfortunately, I was at a wedding yesterday, so I couldn't get reviews out and stuff after the game. Did manage to watch the games this morning, and two very interesting results. First of all, we'll start with the Griquas, who beat the Pumas, and then the Stormers beat the Lions. Before we look at the games themselves, please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We've got another review coming up. It is Elephants versus the Cheetahs today in the last game of the preparation series. We'll obviously also have sort of weekend reviews and sort of 5 things we learn as well, all coming up in the week, so make sure you keep it all locked on Forever Sports. Right, so we'll travel to Kimberley, where the Griquas hosted a Pumas side brimming with confidence. After having beaten the Cheetahs last weekend, you would have thought that it would have been, I wouldn't have said a clear-cut result, but you would have thought that the Pumas would have really taken that momentum in and tried to really sort of take the Griquas on head on. And interestingly enough, I mean, look, it took a 79th minute penalty from Tennis de Beer to actually win the game for the Griquas, 23 points to 22. The Griquas also had 2 yellow cards during the game. So, it's a very impressive result for the Kimberley side. I think what showed the importance of that victory was in the celebrations of the Griquas players. You can see how much it meant to them. They've been playing some decent rugby, to be honest, over the past couple of months in the Super Rugby and Lot Currie Cup. It's a side that's always going to struggle to compete. Their best players always get poached. They're always having to sort of get quite creative with who they bring in, much the same as the Pumas. And they, despite having, a couple of sides, they were badly affected by lightning, for example, when they're looking good against the Lions. They've had all sorts of sort of things, sort of situations, sort of 50-50s going against them. So it was really good to see a really spirited Griquas side see off what is a good Pumas side. It was, as I said, it was a very close game. It came right towards the end, and it meant a lot to the players themselves. And I think that, when it comes to these teams, it's so difficult to be hard on them because, as I said, the resources, everything's just so stacked against them. But, there are some very good players. I mean, Tennis de Beer is a very, very nice young player, and, the composure to have slotted that 79-minute penalty, that's not easy at the best of times. So, yeah, it was a good game by the Griquas, and I think what's important for me is I keep talking about how we want to be competitive across the board. So for me, it's so good for SA Rugby that the Pumas beat the Cheetahs and then go and lose to the Griquas, and you've got teams beating each other. You want to be as competitive as possible, and that's why I thought yesterday's result was quite important because on the back of beating the Cheetahs, the Griquas then beating the Pumas, and it kind of sort of becomes a bit of a leveler, and you kind of sort of get to a stage where maybe not necessarily with the 4 top sides, but at least, the next one down, who's going to win it, and it becomes a little bit less predictable. Whereas in the past, if we're honest, it's usually, unless, your Stormers, Sharks, Lions, and Bulls are playing against each other, it's kind of like, well, we know that they'll beat the Pumas. They will know that they'll beat the Griquas. We know that they, at times beat the Cheetahs, or the Cheetahs have been quite competitive. They really are a team of years. Some years they have really good years and really good performances. Other years they can be quite poor. But we need to try and get these other sides playing better and being more competitive. Tell you what was not competitive, the second game. Stormers absolutely annihilating the Lions, 44 points to 12. And a really good performance from a couple of the youngsters who got an opportunity to play. And I thought Abner van Renen, for me, was the standout. I was very impressed with him. And I keep saying that, Stormers need to get a fly half. Cade Bollitter is not ready. There's a lot of potential, but he's not ready. Tim Sweel, for me, isn't an particularly exciting option. He's been there, he's been around the block, but I wouldn't say he's going to set the world alight. But Abner van Renen showed yesterday that he can definitely do a job at fly half for the Stormers. Sia Butler-Sinatla was back with a bang. He ran a couple of tries. I thought Ivan Roos took his opportunity really well and played very well. They just completely outclassed the Lions. I mean, they scored within the opening few minutes, and it was just sort of downhill really from there for the Lions. So, yeah, a disappointing performance. I think it's probably the worst I've seen the Lions play in the last few years, which is a bit concerning because it's the last game of the preparation series. But I don't want to read too much into it because this is a preparation series. It is a preseason game. What I will say, though, is that the Stormers looked like a completely different side yesterday. They managed to sort of turn defense into attack. They had some very well-constructed tries. But as I said, I thought Abner van Renen controlled the game very well. Sinatla's got so much pace. And then the Springbok front row came in the second half and just did the rest of the job, to be honest. First half, it was one-way traffic. I mean, it was 24-0 at half-time, and it was all Stormers. Second half was a little bit different. The Lions started going into the game. They started getting a bit more ball. Struggled to sort of convert their possession into points. and then you send in Bongi Manambi, Stephen Kitsoff, and Frans Malherbe, and they just shifted the momentum right back into the Stormers. And whilst the Lions did score consolation tries towards the end, the game was a thrashing. It was a very poor performance from the Lions, a very good performance from the Stormers. But what I will say is I was quite impressed on Friday with the Bulls, who got completely outplayed, completely outclassed by the Sharks. How quickly the supporters were to say, you know what, it was our youngsters, it wasn't a full-strength side, we don't actually mind that result. We have faith in the process, we have faith in the coaching staff, we have faith in the system. And I definitely saw the complete opposite reaction to the Lions result. And I think it's a reasonably strong Lions side. I don't think it definitely wasn't the side that should have been outplayed that much, and I think it was. I mean, it wasn't a first-string Stormer side, but I think it was a decent side. So Nutley, starts. Dan du Plessis, Ruan Nel, they're sort of squad starters. Sergio Peterson, depending on his day, definitely could be a starter. Damien Willems is a starter. Herschel Yankees is a World Cup winner, I thought Naman Klava was very good. He's been tasked as the next replacement for Sia Khaleesi, and once again sort of started to prove why. I still do wonder if they shouldn't be bringing in sort of a big name there, but Salman Murat's a very good player. JD Schickerling is a very good player. Scurry into bench, being with captain. It was a decent Stormers side. Let's not pretend it was a case of Alliance first team being completely outplayed by Stormers second team, because that wasn't the case. And if you look at sort of the reactions, kind of how it almost sees. I mean, somebody's saying that that's embarrassing by the Lions because that's their full strength side. It's definitely not the Lions' full strength side. If you had to bring all the injuries and your first team players back, you're changing 8 or 9 of that starting lineup. Ruan Dre is currently trying to, develop himself into a lucid prop because the Lions let go of Dylan Smith and have got Steve Satoli out. PJ Bush doesn't usually play. Ruben Skuma and Randolph Nachel are vying for one potential lock position. Sibusise Tanguini doesn't start. Ross Cunha doesn't start these days. Neither does Rabs Makwane. Dan Creel, for me, is a bit questionable. EW Filion definitely also doesn't start. So, as a Lions fan, I'm not going to read too much into it. I think I was very disappointed. And I do start to worry a little bit about the movements the Lions have been making. When you look at Dylan Smith being let go, just too many good players being let go and not enough quality being brought in. But I do think there's been a lot of knee-jerk reaction about it, which is a bit unnecessary. And this is a Lions side which have won 3 out of 3 before this weekend. They completely, despite playing pretty poorly, decimated the EP Elephants. And it was a very good game against the Sharks last week. A very high-scoring affair, and they saw lots of positives. So to go from there where you're saying, well, look at how good the attacking was and stuff like that. The defense has always been an issue with the Lions. Their defense will always be an issue, though. They are a side that likes to attack, that likes to play in the loose, and likes to keep the game nice and open, which does leave you quite vulnerable. But they've always sort of had the mentality of the last 5 years, we'll just outscore you. Even if we concede 30 points, we're going to score 40. You want to score 40 points, we'll score 50. They've always had that sort of attitude. So I personally, I'm not going to get too worried about it. When the 24th of April comes and they play their first game, then I'm going to start judging these performances. Same thing. I said the Bulls were pretty poor on Friday, but it was a young side, so you can't judge too much into it. But I think as a Stormers fan, you can definitely look at that game and think, well, you know what? That is kind of what we expect to see, because the Stormers have got a very good squad. There were a lot of players missing, and they still played very well. You still didn't have Peace Steph to toy. As I said, the Springbok front row came on. There's still, lots of players that could be playing a lot better and should be sort of getting the Stormers ticking. And I think it's a side with so much potential that yesterday was sort of a glimmer of more what we would like to expect from the Stormers. Really nice, positive rugby, lots of score, constructed tries. They scored 5 tries compared to Lions 2, and one was a penalty try. Evan Furin getting that yellow card for deliberate knockdown. But I think if you look at the preparation series as a whole, and that's what we're going to try and do in the week, I think I've seen enough positives across all 4 franchises to be quite excited about the Rainbow Cup. I think, for everybody saying that the Lions are nowhere, some people are arguing that they were the second best side in the Currie Cup, and that if they hadn't played against the Bulls in the semi-final, in the semi-final, they might have very well made it to the final. I think Stormers at the moment, over the last 6 months, are the biggest underperforming side. I think they are probably the worst side out of those four teams. Lions such a young side, so it's so difficult to judge. I did think I thought I saw a lot of steps being taken by the Sharks on Friday. I was so impressed with their handling, and the Bulls we just know are really good. So I personally have seen enough over the past 4 weeks to think that these SA sides can compete in the Rainbow Cup. I think Lions for me are probably the biggest worry just in terms of not enough quality of players who are ready right now. Stormers are underperforming, but they've got the players, they've got the personnel, and it's just a case of trying to get it right. For me, the Lions there's just so many young players and even doubts about the coach staff, very inexperienced coaches, quite a lot of inexperienced players, and I think that's probably going to be their biggest issue. But we'll cover that more in the 5 things learned. So that's just sort of a review of what happened yesterday. A very interesting victory. Griquas beating the Pumas, which was very nice to see, especially when you can see how much it meant to them. And then the Stormers beating the Lions, completely outplaying them, which is a nice positive for them. But yeah, we'll catch up more about that over the week and discuss sort of more in depth what it all means and how these teams are shaping up ahead of the Rainbow Cup, which the fixtures have been announced. We'll do a video over there, so you're going to go check it out on the channel. As I said, please do smash a like on the video. Do subscribe if you're new. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.